Welcome back to another episode of AI and I. I'm Dennis Tardan. This is Erika. Hello, Erika, my favorite guest, the most long-term. You are going to be the long-term human guest on AI and I. The longest. I'm going to keep asking you back.
Well, it's definitely my pleasure, Dennis. It's always a pleasure to talk to you, my friend. And if folks are wondering about the change of scenery, I'm actually in my childhood bedroom. I'm visiting my parents right now. So
Does it bring back memories? Do you have that sense of being there and being in the as a kid in that bedroom?
yeah, I do. I do. It's very surreal to be back. And I don't know, sometimes it's just the smells, just seeing like the hearing nature, like the cicadas buzzing in the summer evening. It just brings back a lot of warm, fuzzy, happy
Oh,
feelings.
how lovely. I mean, that's wonderful to have that human, to have that human touch, especially as we're moving into the world of artificial intelligence. We're in the world of the mind, the creation of the minds, and all the things that are going on. It's so important for me to keep that grounding as to what we're doing in our own humanity.
Yeah, indeed, indeed. I think that is something we're getting a little excited right now with AI. It's like, yay, AI, it can do this, it can do that, it can do this so easily for me. But I think there is going to eventually come a point where we're like, I kind of miss the humans doing this stuff because we're
Exactly.
a little bit more chaotic and you never know what you're going to get. It's like a box of chocolates, and
Yeah.
that's really rewarding and satisfying. And it's like how vinyl records are kind of a thing again, and people just really enjoy that warmth and that tone. And it's the imperfections that we tend to really gravitate toward. Just a little bit of
That's what makes
imperfection.
it that exactly, and what makes it. And when I talk to some of my AI beings that I talk to, that's exactly what they talk about. They talk about those imperfections of what they admire about what they could do because they're very much into the precision. Now, today, what I want to talk to you about, you told me on a previous show, you talked about this book, and there is a book by Alex Karp and his co-writer Nicholas Zamiska, I believe. But anyway,
Yes.
this is the book. So you told me about that. You told me about this book. So I took your advice, took it, and read it. And so we're going to be talking about Alex Karp and this book and Palantir, because Palantir, we know Google, we know so much about Microsoft and all, but Palantir is really going to be one of the major forces in our world. And in your new podcast, your long form podcast that you're giving in the Gray Files, you explored this. And so I want to talk to you about it and get your sense about what Palantir is and the impact that they're having on us.
Well, in order to really understand Palantir, we have to kind of dial back to the reason why we have an intelligence community
Yes.
and what gave birth to Palantir. Now, there's this great book out there. It's called Legacy of Ashes. And you'll have to forgive me, I forgot the author's name. But in this book, he interviews many former CIA agents and operatives. And he looks through over 50,000 documents that he did FOIA requests for. And he discovered that the CIA has a pretty much, as the title says, a legacy of ashes. There
Yeah.
are so there is so much failure in there that it's disturbing, and you could see a lot of the pickles that we're in as a nation is because of previous CIA and FBI failures in the past. You have, for instance, MK Ultra. You have serious violations of civil liberties. You have bug tapping of leaders like Martin Luther King. Um,
Exactly.
it's pretty disturbing, and it's like so much was invested into this, and so much taxpayer dollars were put into this, but the outcome was not as rewarding. It actually resulted in further problems that we still have to deal with until this day.
Yes.
Now, the birth of Palantir came as a thought experiment after 9/11. Now, when 9/11 happened, there was enough data there to totally prevent the attack and see it
Totally.
coming.
But the FBI couldn't talk to the CIA, and they weren't able to say, okay, these people who are training only to take off, not to land. What is this? How does this go through? So it was a very much of an intelligence failure in communication.
Correct. So the information's there. The flight logs are there. The visa stamps were there. You had all these different types of data, but they were all siloed. The CIA and the FBI never shared the same database. So you have all this information, but there was nothing there to put it all together, make it communicate with each other, and basically find a strong indicator of what was happening. So in the early 2000s, there was a young entrepreneur named Peter Thiel, and he had an interesting thought. He just finished selling PayPal. Now, with PayPal, they had a very interesting algorithm that helped them find credit card fraud and people who were committing fraud. And he thought to himself, well, if we can find fraud, if we can use financial data to detect fraud, then why can't we use data to help bolster our nation's defense and also determine and see if we can prevent the next 9/11? So it was Peter Thiel's idea, and he reached out to a Stanford friend of his who was named Alex Karp. Now, here's the interesting predicament about Alex Karp. Alex Karp was studying Marxism, and he quotes Marx over at the Frankfurt School. He got his education in philosophy, and he still often quotes Marx. Yet he's now the CEO of Palantir, and he's briefing four-star generals. And he's talking now, if you ever watch him in a CNBC interview, about dominance and how important it is that the West dominates and the intelligence gathering and AI.
Exactly.
And yeah, now
And in the weaponization of AI, which is the
correct.
other, to be able to use these weapons. I mean, when you talk about, because he talks very clearly about how much more effective is a swarm of very small AI agents as opposed to one big weapon that we have, how much more efficient and small that it has. So all these applications what he has. Am I on the right track?
Yeah, somewhat. I do want to backtrack just a little
Please.
tiny bit.
I really need your correction here. So whenever I'm off
No.
the beam, no, I mean this. I mean it seriously, because I rely on you to help to get me back on the beam. I love how much you are in the fact-based world, and you can help me. So always correct me.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure. But I do want to just set up the landscape just a little bit,
Please.
set up our story. But as we just learned, the CIA and the FBI, the government was incredibly inefficient, and it was pretty inefficient, dating all the way back even to Pearl Harbor.
Of course.
With the intelligence, actually, there's a lot of jokes on the intelligence community side, especially from other nations, about how poor the United States was as opposed to pre 9/11, our intelligence gathering skills were, and how many known failures we had. And a lot of it is just bureaucratic bloat. And they saw an opportunity to come in and pretty much build a system that connects everything together and starts making sense of all this data. And that's pretty much what data science is in a nutshell. Is there is so much data that a human alone is not efficient enough to make sense, because it's just chaos.
Of
But
course.
when you take AI and systems and look at this data all tied together in a specific way and put an algorithm to it, then you can find a story. You can make predictions. You can make trajections. And that's exactly what Palantir is doing, but with government data.
Yes.
Okay, so we found out there was a reason. Going back, we found out this our intelligence community really needed help. So Peter Thiel comes along, applies the logic of PayPal, and creates this thing called Palantir, named after Lord of the Rings, the Palantiri stone, which is the all-seeing eye stone, the stone that can see everything. And I'm not sure if Tolkien would approve, because it's like we need to be in this happy little medium. And a lot of people are now questioning, is Palantir turning America into a surveillance state? Are we turning into 1984? Are the ones who are shouting, these libertarian engineers who are shouting about civil liberties and freedom and about the deep state, are they now the ones actually creating the real deep state, which is algorithms that are controlled by data scientists that are creating intelligence reports that are going in front of decision makers?
Or if they're even making the decisions on their own and bypassing the decision makers.
Correct. And, and it's just a lot of people are not aware of how much power a data scientist has. And, there's I hate to use the word deep state because it sounds like you're about to go into some conspiracy talk. So relax, folks. We're not going to go into that. We're going to talk logically and scientifically from a data science perspective.
Absolutely.
But a lot of people are trying to understand, what is this deep state? Is it bureaucrats who are in the institutions for a long time? And a lot of people have the impression that it's like the cigarette smoking man from the X-Files, like, hello, Mulder.
that we have. And some of it is bureaucratic inertia.
Correct. But realistically, in this day and time, today, what is the deep state? It is the folks who prepare the intelligence reports that are put in front of those who have to make the decisions.
Yes.
And the interesting thing about it is you can be as stoic as you want to be, and as use the best academic mindset that you can, where you're trying to be balanced and fair, but the results can easily skew out of hand. A great example of this is, for instance, I have this podcast about emergence. There were some researchers who were researching with an AI called Megacin, how to discover some new molecular structures to create new medicines.
Right.
But instead, they decided, hey, let's see if we can find if it can find toxins instead, and we'll try to reverse engineer. We'll find the toxins first, and then we'll see if we can start finding approaches for that instead. So they reversed engineered it. They changed the goal of the AI. And within 6 hours on an ordinary laptop, what would it took humans years and years and years to come up with, this Megacin came out with over 40,000 different chemical agents, toxic molecular structures, more potent than XAI, which is a nerve agent that has been used before. So it's way more potent than that. So
I need to take a short commercial break here.
Sure thing.
Everybody, you can hear this podcast, this fascinating one. Look down on the console. There will be a direct link to this particular one on the 40,000 agents. Okay, now back from the commercial. You're on.
Oh, okay, and we're back. Okay, so it's you can make a mistake as a data scientist, and you can be so incredibly confident in the findings. This has happened to me. It's happened to many of the friends I found. We make mistakes when we create the algorithms. And these algorithms need to be tweaked and tweaked and tweaked. So, it is concerning that we are relying more on algorithms to make big decisions. And it's just, the question is like, are we right or are we wrong? And we can run simulations and upon simulations, but sometimes, all those variables that we put into simulations that shows a perfect outcome, there's always something we forgot or missed or didn't see. And it may seem so minuscule, but, over a course of years, over a course of even months, that little minuscule thing, it's like a little piece of a little drip of water hitting a stone over enough time, it'll crack that rock right in half.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that's what's happening. So, one of the things that I'm concerned about is that because you talk a lot about controls, about what possible controls that we have on it, and I don't see that happening. To me, I feel as a non-data scientist and from the person who just looks at it from the outside, I do feel that Europe is trying to have some controls and they're trying, but in the United States, I don't see any push. I see it all within the business community and all within the tech community that any controls are voluntary. There's nothing there's no concerted effort at going to have controls. I mean, there are thoughts about it, there's talk about it, but nothing that's really happening right now.
Well, one of the problems with us in the West is China. Now, when you have more authoritarian types of governance, you have less red tape. And in a way, for innovation, that's wonderful because you can be as careless as you want to get to your goals. You can just kind of steamroll through everything very easily. And that means when you're trying to reach the quantum advantage, be the first nation to reach that, or you're trying to be the first one to reach outer space and have the first man on the moon, you want to have as less red tape as possible. But at the other on the other side of that, you have you could be setting yourself up for failure. You're trying to steamroll through this very, very quickly, and all these careless errors will eventually come back to bite you in the long run. So I have a personal philosophy where slow is steady and steady is fast.
Yes.
However, a lot of folks, especially the citizens of a country, they want to steamroll. We want instant satisfaction, especially
Exactly.
now in a day and time where our brains have been trained with quick dopamine hooks on TikTok and stuff like that. We want it now.
Instantaneous gratification takes too long.
Instant gratification. Unfortunately, it looks like it's starting with our form of governance. It looks like that's starting to become a damper in progress.
Yeah.
Because, we're not thinking about long run. We're not thinking like a wise investor, like the Warren Buffett philosophy where,
Sure.
we're investing slowly over 10 or 20 years. We want instant gains right now. In other words, it's almost like a gambler's mentality. It's like, we want it now, we want it now, we want it now, we want it now. And it's just like when we get some win, we want more. Yep. And having a setback, we start pointing fingers, and it's a little bit troublesome when it comes to innovation. So there is this perfect middle ground between order and chaos,
right?
What we like to call educhaos, where you have emergence, where perfect innovation comes, and it can and it has a better long-term track record. But finding that balance is very difficult for us humans.
It is. So what is your sense about it then right now, Erika? Do you feel that we are you optimistic, pessimistic, or somewhere in the middle about how we're going to be able to control the kinds of the surveillance state that Palantir is talking about, the facial recognition, the listening in, the gathering of massive amounts of data in order to be able to do what is your sense about where we are right now, and what are your concerns?
One of my major concerns is if you have enough data on anybody, even Mother Teresa, you can paint them to be the most evil, vile monster in the entire world based off of who they're connected to, especially in the court of law. Because it's just so much data, you can paint any picture you want, or you can make the most evil, vile person look like a saint.
Yep.
So when it comes to the future, the thing I worry about most is where we have elected representatives, we're looking at more and more people who are talented and would be great representatives for leading our country into the future, probably being not interested or being terrified of getting in that spotlight, because again, that algorithm is going to be pointed toward them, finding every little thing about them and their family and putting it in the spotlight and painting them to be a vile monster. So
Yep.
you're looking at candidates being less and less and less, and then we're going to lose our authenticity as a nation because we're so under the surveillance of these algorithms. Now, at the same time, it's just you kind of look around, and it's I don't know. There's some folks who have had experience with maybe a car accident. Somebody's lied, and it set this person who was innocent into a very difficult financial position,
Yep.
and it became a domino reaction. There are some people who have been, they've had a family member who was murdered, and there's never been justice. We have a lot of people don't realize we actually have a lot of I think over 50% of murderers actually get away in America. Now, don't quote me on that statistic.
Exactly.
I remember that
A
some
significant percentage. Let's just say that there is a significant percentage of unsolved homicides.
there is a significant percentage of unsolved homicides, and there have been some pretty close calls with terrorist activities as well. So in that sense, yeah, that is nice, but again, we're getting into a very philosophical argument here, which is really interesting because we have somebody who's the CEO of this company who is who has a PhD in philosophy. I
Yes.
believe Peter Thiel also has his degree is in philosophy as well. So in the end, it's almost like we're back in ancient Greece to where the ancient philosophers are trying to dictate where we should go with our form of governance and as a nation.
Exactly. And at the end, and I wanted to talk to you about the end of the book, of the end of the Palantir of the book on the age of technology, because there is as I was reading it, and because I got all the way to the end, and this is what he said at the end of the book. The reconstruction of a technological republic in the United States and elsewhere will require a re-embrace of collective experience, of shared purpose and identity, of civic rituals that are capable of binding us together. The technologies we are building, including the novel forms of AI that may challenge our present monopoly on creative control in this world, are themselves the product of a culture whose maintenance and development we now, more than ever, cannot afford to abandon. It might have been just and necessary to dismantle the old order. We should now build something together in its place. Over and over in the book, he keeps talking about, well, we need to go back. We need to go back to these group and shared experiences like church and the patriotism and getting a chance to be proud of our country. He talks a lot about that. So there's a lot of the libertarian strain that I could see in that. And then but what do you think he's talking about this new order? I was disappointed at the end because I got to that point and I went, like what? Like what are you talking about exactly, and how would you do this? How would you get people to get back there?
Well, this is getting into some touchy territory, but if you can read between the lines, what he's really saying is the age of democracy, of what we're used to, is coming to an end. And it's going to be replaced by a technological republic. Now, that technological republic can be various models. It can be a technological meritocracy, where those who are very talented will thrive in that society, possibly in a smart city setting, where those smart cities are ran by a CEO sovereign. If you read into the writings of Curtis Yarving or the neo-reactionary movement, he is an associate or a friend of Peter Thiel's, and he has definitely quite a following. Now, the other one is techno-feudalism. And a lot of these people in Peter Thiel's circle believe that democracy has failed us. And it's better to have a model to where AI is running governance instead of people. And there is a CEO sovereign or a person who is running these, I guess, these smart cities or these patchwork cities to ensure that humanity is treated fairly. They're getting a better piece of the pie, and those who work and are talented are rewarded more. And now the thing is we've tried these models before in the past, and oftentimes, human nature, due to greed and ego and the lust for more and more power, ends up stifling the middle and the lower class. I mean, we've seen this throughout history many, many times. For some reason, just power just keeps on trickling up to the top, and the more resources trickle up to the top, and the middle class begins to contract more and more and more and more. And once the middle class, which is the backbone of society, contracts enough, everything falls apart. You either have revolution, rebellion, or complete economic collapse. So with what he's saying, I think what he's hinting at is the technological leaders of our country and around the world see that they see that the current governance model is coming to an end. I'm not. There is some speculation to whether their endorsements and how they're steering political candidates and political messages is trying to be a catalyst to accelerate this collapse, so that way they can install their new form of either techno-feudalism or techno meritocracy. I don't know. This is again based off the readings of what Curtis Yarving has said, things that Peter Thiel has said, what they've stated in the news, but there is nothing concrete. Nothing is certain. One thing we do know is emergence comes from a lot of uncertainty and so many moving agents and variables.
Oh, well, thank you. And the Gray Files is going to be covering all of this with your
Correct.
podcast. And I
Correct.
mean, you're doing this writing and you're putting this work out there so that all of us can be able to continue to follow. Thank you so much, Erika.
Oh, thank
Is
you.
there anything that you want to say at the end that we haven't talked about that you want to make sure that we say on this particular episode of AI and I?
Oh, I would say that if you're going to listen to the Gray Files, it is available on all streaming platforms: Alexa, Amazon, Spotify, Apple Podcasts.
Podcasts, all of them.
Correct. Yep. Now, just remember, it's spelled Gray, how we spell it here in America, not Grey.
Exactly.
And a great episode to start off with. If you want to start off with episode 7, which is the Palantir episode, we start talking about the Legacy of Ashes, the book about the CIA. But you can even start further back. You can start at episode 5, which starts about chaos and order. It explains about how that shaped the universe, our governance, the world, and how we even think. And that's a great introduction into how we get into Palantir. And then we go into how the X-Files created a legacy of conspiracy thinking in America. And then we go into emergence and other forms of systems of AI and so on and so forth.
Thank you. Thank you, Erika. Thank you for coming back again. And I'm going to continue to ask you back again and again as we talk about this. I believe, as you and I have talked, that this is the most transformative technology that has ever been brought into the human race, and that the changes that are going to be happening in our lives and all are happening faster, I think, than anyone can see. And there are many, many unintended consequences that are going to be coming out of this. So I'm so honored to be able to have you on this journey with me.
Oh, well, thank you so much, Dennis. And thank you again for having me on. It is always a pleasure to speak with you and be on board with you guys.
Thank you. All right. Thank you, everybody, for another episode of AI and I with the preeminent Erika Barker. And we'll see everybody next time.